You know what, it may have been a parody video that I shot a couple of weeks ago, but let's be honest, QWERTY keyboards, it's good to have choice on the market. How's it going, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and I've got two QWERTY keyboard options. You know what we do in PhoneDog land when there's options? We dogfight them, that's what we do. The Motorola PHOTON Q 4G LTE, a newcomer to Sprint, and available now for $199. Then you have the DROID 4 on Verizon. 4G LTE capabilities, very similar keyboard to the PHOTON Q 4G LTE, and packing some pretty decent specs itself. But better yet, it's 50% cheaper. Which one of these is going to win the dogfight? We're going to have to watch, my friends. But first, some love to Best Buy Mobile for hooking us up with QWERTY keyboard phones and more for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working with either of these devices. I'll help you set up your email, your web, your bookmarks, all the stuff that I go through in these dogfights. I'll help you set that up at Best Buy Mobile. Let's take a look. Which one's going to win? PHOTON Q? DROID 4? It's Sprint versus Verizon, Motorola versus Motorola in a dogfight, which starts right now. I've been pretty excited about this dogfight for some time now because in a lot of ways you're looking at new Motorola versus old Motorola. Now that's not to say that the DROID 4 is an old device by any means, but I guess in wireless years, or wireless months I should say, it is because it's been out for a couple of months, but you know how the wireless market works. A couple of months equals like 10 years. It's like dog years, it's like 1 month in human life equals 10 years in cell phone life. But at least that's what it seems like to me, but I review a lot of these on a regular basis. But you've got a new Motorola, you've got a new design theme here. You can kind of clearly see where they're going with their design theme with this, the Droid Razr, the Droid Razr Max, and then of course the newer version of Ice Cream Sandwich here. So this thing is another Motorola device. It's the second one after the Atrix HD to ship with Ice Cream Sandwich out of the gate. So it's getting Ice Cream Sandwich, no updates needed, it ships with Ice Cream Sandwich, and it ships with a new version of Motorola's user interface. It's increasingly becoming more and more stock Google, and it's funny to watch Motorola's transition over the years with Moto Blur and how many people hated Moto Blur because it was so intrusive and it really took away the benefit of stock Android. If you were a lover of stock Android, you hated it in most cases. Then you have the DROID 4 over here. It's been updated to Ice Cream Sandwich, so it's got Android 4.0. It's got a newer version of the user interface, which as you can see by the tabs below, or the dock below rather, very similar look and feel to the PHOTON Q 4G LTE. That said, the operating system is a little bit different. You know Motorola, you know how they like to kind of like make the software a little bit different between a Sprint device and a Verizon device, and a lot of that is carrier customizations too, because I believe, actually I heard somewhere that the 5 home screens here, and you only get 5 home screens, that's a Verizon thing. I believe it's a Droid thing. Verizon requests 5 home screens and 5 home screens only, whereas here, you can have a maximum of 7 home screens on the Sprint device. So that's something to keep in mind. Let's talk about the devices. Motorola PHOTON Q 4G LTE here, coming to Sprint, or available now, I should say, for $199.99. So it's going head-to-head price-wise against the Evo 4G LTE, against the Samsung Galaxy S3. So spec-wise, it gets outdone by those two devices, but the benefit here, it's got a nice physical QWERTY keyboard that very closely resembles the DROID 4s, which we'll talk about in just a second. But it's packing a new specs, a 1.5 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU. It's got a 4.3-inch QHD display with color boost technology, an 8-megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording, a 1,785 milliamp hour non-removable battery, and then you've got Android 4.0, like I said, with the newest version of Motorola's user interface. Much different than Moto Blur. Throw out your preconceived notions of Motorola because it is a huge improvement, especially for those people that like stock Android. You're going to like this a lot, and it's just funny that it's coming from Motorola. I know that the Google purchase had a hand in that, but still kind of interesting to see it coming. Now this one available from Verizon, the Motorola DROID 4, available for $99.99. So it's a little bit cheaper. It's $100 cheaper, I should say. So it's actually 50% cheaper, which is pretty substantial when you look at the numbers, but it's packing an older spec list, a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core TI-OMAP processor. It's got the same QHD display, 540 by 960 pixels, and it is a 4-inch display though instead of a 4.3-inch display. So 4-inch display, 540 by 960, and then it's got an 8-megapixel camera on the back with 1080p HD video recording, a 1,785 milliamp hour non-removable battery itself, and then it's got now Android 4.0 with Motorola's user interface. It's pared down over here as well, but that said, this is the newest of the new. This is the new version. We'll talk about the differences in just a second. So $200, $100. This goes head-to-head against some other devices on Verizon that are around similar price points, the Galaxy Nexus, some of the newer mid-range to low high-end Android devices, and more. Not to mention, at least right now, the iPhone 4 and 4S aren't too far apart from the Droid 4. So spec-wise, that's out of the way. Let's take a look at both of these and see what comes pre-installed. So obviously, like I said, this one has an upgrade available. So if you haven't gotten it and you have the Droid 4, you're looking to buy it, maybe you just bought it and you're like, well, this one looks different. It's because it got ice cream sandwich and yours should have it. If it doesn't get it, it should get it pretty soon. So you can see some minor differences here, and I love to compare manufacturers' devices, like Motorola to Motorola, LG to LG, because you can see some differences here. You've got the same Google Play shortcut up top, but you'll notice that apps and widgets a little bit different, with it saying all apps and then all apps over here with a little icon and then widgets. Another thing you'll immediately notice, on-screen buttons here, back, home, and then the recent applications button, as opposed to capacitive buttons here, which you can see activate the menu system. Now ice cream sandwich look and feel all the way through here. But then over here you have your recent applications right here, which you can scroll back and forth between. Very fast device. I love Snapdragon S4 processors. Qualcomm did a great job with it. It's a huge, huge improvement over the Snapdragon S3. I can't speak enough about it. The TI OMAP processor, relatively decent, good in web browsing, been relatively impressed with it. That said, I'll go ahead and spoil it for you. This one is a much faster device, but again, you're getting a cheaper device. Over here, you press and hold home screen, or press and hold the home button rather, when you want to access your recent applications on older devices that get upgraded to ice cream sandwich. So out of the gate, you don't get a whole lot when it comes to Sprint applications on the PHOTON Q4G LTE. You get Chrome out of the gate, which I like that a lot. That's not a Sprint application, but it's nice that it comes pre-installed. And again, you'll see minor differences between these two, like the camera icons, you'll notice are different. Calendar, ever so slightly different here. And then you've got some emergency alerts, both of those are there. Let's see what else we've got. Google Plus integration on both of these devices, but you'll see some minor icon differences. On the Droid 4, you've got VCast apps, My Verizon Mobile, Netflix, and you can easily, mobile hotspot, scroll over to see all the different applications. Slingbox, Verizon Video, video calling, visual voicemail, which on Verizon is an additional $2.99 per month. Then you have VZ Navigator over here. So quite a few, pre-installed Verizon applications. There is some bloatware. If you're not going to use them, unfortunately, you can't uninstall them. As for Sprint stuff, only thing you get on this device are the only couple of things you get: Sprint ID, Sprint Zone, visual voicemail, free for a basic package. The extra package is $1.99 per month on Sprint, and that's it. And then, of course, when you scroll over, it automatically moves into widgets. So again, a stock look and feel here with it scrolling between apps and widgets. Contrast that to something like the Galaxy S3, which you have to physically click widgets up top or physically click apps. I always like to point out those little differences like that. Now, something you do get in the new Motorola devices you don't get in the old ones, the widget over here. Let's see, I've got it on one of these screens somewhere. The Circles widget, which gives you access to the clock, which you can change around as much as you see fit. You can change weather, which that's what it is in Charlotte right now, but I can add new cities. Then I can see my battery life indicator up here at 98%, and I can flip that one back and forth to activate settings and go right into that and see my circle settings for text messages, missed calls, and voicemails. Whenever I get any of that stuff, in addition to the notification light, which is right up here at the top, it'll activate those for me. Over here, got a notification light in the left-hand corner, but you don't get the Circles widget. Otherwise, widgets are relatively similar on both of these devices, and I love the ability to go to all apps and click on Verizon, for example, where I can access all my stuff, or I can go to my downloaded apps just by clicking downloaded, or frequent apps, and scroll back and forth through those. So if I use something on a regular basis, I can kind of customize the applications drawer and make it my own. So that's a nice little feature over there. And then your apps and widgets on this device also. So widgets are relatively similar. Bookmarks, for example, you'll see the Motorola bookmarks. Now over here, you'll see stock Android bookmarks as well. So you can get kind of an option to choose if you want to between stock bookmarks or Motorola's bookmarks. And then over here, you can see email, Gmail, and more. So a lot of these are dynamic, first of all, and second of all, even the Motorola ones allow you to resize and customize to fit your liking. So let's say I want to make this a little bit larger. I can do that. I can make it a little bit smaller if I want to. Actually, I don't think I can make it any smaller, but I can make it bigger. And of course, it's a dynamic widget, so I can scroll back and forth through here, up and down. And when I'm done with it, I can swipe up to remove it. Again, very fast device over here. I'll add bookmarks to one of these screens here and see. I can customize, as you can tell, by going up. Nope, that's not what I want to do. Let's go up here and move it, and then I can customize it. Let's try here. It doesn't like me very much when it sits on the mat. I don't think it likes the mat, but you can see, bam, customized for my liking, and you can do that with all the different Motorola ones. Let's take a look quickly at text messaging here. Forgive me while I pull this out, and you can see the text messaging interface. Very similar here. Motorola's multi-touch keyboard has been updated on this device, and then let's see here. Test, how did it go? Okay, this is a test between a demo phone that I actually did the other day for the Motorola PHOTON Q4G LTE review. So physical QWERTY keyboards on both of these devices, and as soon as I open this up, you're going to notice the similarities between the two. Almost identical keyboards. Design's a little bit different, and obviously you get a 4.3-inch display over here, whereas you only get a 4-inch display. So if you're somebody that likes typically using the on-screen QWERTY, you're going to get more screen real estate out of the PHOTON Q than you are out of the Droid 4. That said, and you'll notice minor differences here in the way it looks. So we're going to load this up and do the exact same recipient because I want to show you the differences here. 2126412. This is a demo phone that I have, by the way. 0042. I'm just going to type hey so I can show you the differences. Just minor stuff, and you get Swipe pre-installed on this device along with the Google Voice typing thing, which comes with Motorola's input, Motorola's multi-touch keyboard. But QWERTY 5-row on both of these devices. Quick Brown Fox says hi. Quick Brown Fox says hi. So I'm going to send, and you can see how the thread lines up on this device with shortcuts to calling, attaching, and then of course your menu button to do some other stuff. Over here, a little bit of a different look and feel, and I'll show you the keyboard here. 5-row QWERTY keyboard, very similar again. Dedicated rows on both for numbers and for symbols. And then I'll say, hey there, how are you doing? And I'll send it so you can see the difference between how the threads look on a completely new version of Ice Cream Sandwich with Motorola's UI versus something that's been upgraded, like the Droid Razr, the Droid Razr Max. This looks very much like the Atrix HD. So again, in typical Motorola style, the software versions kind of differ just ever so slightly depending on which version you're using. Then of course, since the menu button's up here, because obviously you don't have a physical or capacitive menu button, you do on this device, so menu button is down here. So just minor differences like that. Also, let's quickly take a look at the browser. And Sprint's 3G has been pretty rough, to say the least. Sprint's 3G in non-network vision markets is absolutely terrible. Then you have Verizon's 4G LTE, which is rolled out to 370 plus cities as of this video, the time of this video. So quite a few cities, quite a few options for availability. Over here, rolled out to a few markets, not very many though. So unless you live in like Atlanta, Houston, or any of the other launch markets, you're going to be out of luck. And if you're not in a network vision market, they haven't fully upgraded Charlotte, for example, to network vision yet. The 3G speeds are absolutely terrible. I mean, absolutely terrible. But you still got, again, a stock look and feel here with your tabs where you can scroll back and forth, your menu button up top. Portrait to landscape transitions incredibly fast. It's a zippy device, to say the least. Great for web browsing, 4.3-inch display. I used to say 4 was a sweet spot. Now I moved it up a little bit to 4.3 because with the adoption of these 4.7 and 4.8-inch devices, it really has migrated up just a little bit. Then over here, already loaded. So don't get me wrong, both are 4G LTE devices. That said, Verizon's LTE, been around since December of 2010, rolled out to a ton of markets, like I said, 370 plus cities. Browsing still relatively responsive over here, and you get the tab option up here at the top as well. So you've got that choice. Now if you're on Verizon, again, LTE, great to have. Over here, it'll come out to several markets at some point, but until then, you're stuck on 3G.